Hello, and welcome to another Rant, Rave review for Get Caught Reading Month. So, this will be classic mysteries. One that I believe many people have heard of, and one that, oddly, not very many people have heard of. So, yeah. The first will be The Innocence of Father Brown. I have not read the other Father Brown books. I've only read The Innocence of Father Brown. It was okay. It's not my cup of tea for many reasons. My main problem, honestly, is, okay, so if you have a normal detective story, you know, like the I don't know what it's called, the story structure thing of, you know, you have the inciting incident, rising action, climax, falling action, conclusion, okay? In a mystery, kind of maybe in place of the falling action or during it or whatever, it's the denouement. A denouement is basically where it's when the detective is like, okay, everybody, here's what happened. And they explain, and they lay out all the clues and all the red herrings, and it's like, it means unraveling. It means you finally unravel everything. It's all made clear. So, yeah, denouements are a thing in detective fiction. And my problem with Chesterton, at least in The Innocence of Father Brown, is he's like, rising action, climax, denouement, the end. And I'm like, what? Wait, I think you need a little more falling action. And he's like, nope, we're done. Moving on. No, we don't have time for that. And I'm like, but what? I want to know, like, did the guy get, like, captured or arrested or what? And he's like, nope, moving on, next story, denouement. And I'm like, not a fan. Yeah, whereas Agatha Christie will have, like, here's what happened, and then she kind of is like, and then these people went off to live happily ever after, or, you know, are they gonna catch the criminals? Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, she has a little bit of after, and Chesterton's like, nope. And some of it makes sense, because, let's talk about Father Brown. The premise is basically there is this priest named Father Brown who solves various mysteries, and he kind of like Miss Marple, how Miss Marple just assumes that everyone is the worst and lives in a village where she has seen all these terrible things. Father Brown, being a priest, has heard the confessions of, like, tons of people, so he's heard all the things. And it kind of makes sense in a lot of stories. The denouement is, you know, he explains what happened. And a lot of them, like, it's kind of implied or assumed or is stated that the criminal doesn't get caught. And sometimes that's okay because Father Brown is a priest, and if there's, Flambeau is this big thief who often is the perpetrator and often confesses his crimes to Father Brown. And technically, if you're a Catholic priest, not technically, like, actually, like, you can't tell what happened in a confession. Like, you literally can't. So, it makes sense for these stories to just be like, you know, he often doesn't. He'll often say, like, how he figured something out, but he won't say anything else because the person confessed it to him. So, okay, it makes sense that he's not going to catch a criminal, but it's still not satisfying narratively. Yeah, in my opinion. I know some people really like Father Brown. I was just like, frustrating. I will say it's also interesting because not every story is like a classic mystery. Some of them are and some of them aren't. What I mean by that is some of them we aren't really given a bunch of different clues. It's more like a psychological study, I guess, of the crime. Some of them we are given tons of clues, and it's very like, aha, twisty-turny. Some really good ones. Well, in terms of twists. There's one thing that broke my heart. But the ones in terms of really good clues and twists, The Secret Garden, really good. It's basically, there's this, like, headless corpse found in this garden, a closed garden, and there's all these people at the party, and it's very, like, oh, who did it and how, and such. Very Ace Attorney twist, I'll say. And there was another one called The Son of Apollo, I think? And that one's excellent, because it's basically there's this weird guy who starts his weird new religion. He goes out at noon every day onto his balcony in the middle of London, and he's like, I'm like the son of Apollo, and he does this speech, and everyone's like, okay. And while he's doing this speech, I think his girlfriend ends up dying, getting pushed down an elevator shaft, and so he obviously couldn't have done it, but we all know he did it. And that one's really fun because you actually, if you pay attention, you actually can figure it out. You're like, oh, yes, I know what happened. So those ones are good. There's some other ones where I feel like we're asked to believe things that one would not necessarily believe. I think it's called like the star of something or the diamond or something, the jewel. I don't know. It's basically this. Oh no, that's a different one. Never mind. I'm getting the stories confused. But there's one where this guy steals this thing and they don't know how, like nobody got into the building. And they ask all the witnesses and everyone's like, no one entered the building. No one entered the building. But then they're like, oh, but what's someone that no one would, I think it's called the Invisible Man. Like the postman entered the building and people just didn't think about him. And I'm like, Chesterton, I'm calling BS. Like some witness would say nobody but the postman entered the building. Even if they're like the kind of habitual person who would be there, you'd still mention it. So I'm like, no, that doesn't fly with me. There's some other stories where it's not really a mystery. It's just kind of a funny type of story. I'm trying to remember which was the one where Flambeau finally freaking repents. I don't know. There's one where he like he basically pretends to be these people's like relative and does this insane like pantomime show and like right in front of them to steal their stuff. And it's not really a mystery. It's just kind of funny and interesting. But yeah, so it's a mixed bag. I'm not super into it, but I know some people really are. So maybe recommendation, maybe not. I don't know. So yeah, not really a rant or a rave. Maybe just a review. The next thing I will talk about is The Red House Mystery by A.A. Milne, or Milne. I don't know how you say his name, but he is the guy who wrote Winnie the Pooh. That guy. He wrote a single mystery. I'm sad because I would totally be down to read more of this detective's mysteries. It's a super duper classic whodunit country house mystery. Locked room murder, he's just like, this is pour on all the, friggin' the secret passage in the library, like, he's just like, let's just dump all the ingredients in and mix it up. It's 95% good, and the last 5% is annoying. Okay, so let's rave and then rant. So the rave is this big country house where there's this big rich man, and he invites all these, like, artists and actors and, you know, men about town to his house, and he's just very, haha, like, do whatever you want, but in a kind of controlling, like, you will have fun, you will do this. Yeah, so he's kind of a mixed bag, and his, like, crazy, weird, we don't talk about him, brother from Australia is coming to the house, and all the servants know this, but they don't know, they've never heard of this brother before, and they're very confused. And stuff happens. There's a body in the closed room, and the rich guy disappears after killing his brother, and what's going on, and all this stuff. Closed circle of suspects. There's only the people who are in the house. A lot of them have alibis. And basically, the fun part is the detective. So one of the men about town has a friend who is basically this rich guy who, his father died, and he got all his money, and he's like, don't know what I want to do with my life. I guess I'll just take random odd jobs and, like, see the world. So he becomes, like, a waiter, or he works at a bakery, or whatever. And so at this point in his life, he's like, I guess I'm gonna go hang out with my man-about-town friend in this rich guy's house. And so he basically, because he's there, and he was there when the body was discovered, he's like, I guess we're gonna play detectives. Why not? So him and so he's basically Sherlock, and the Watson is, like, one of the men about town. It's cute in that, like, I would read tons of books about this guy. If that's your detective, he's just like, I don't know, I guess I'll be a detective. I would read a heck ton of those books, but unfortunately, this is the only one. I will say what I like about this is Christie, as I said, Agatha Christie's books are like 90% talking, which I love. This book is much more footwork of, they know that some guy dumped something in the lake, so they have to go out at night and wait to see him, like, dump it again and go to the lake, and I forget why they know that it's in the lake. Anyway, try to take it out, or they know there's a secret passage in the library, so they have to go into the secret passage underground, and lots of footwork, lots of investigating, and it's very fun. Yeah, it's the kind of book, I don't know, if you were, like, a young man, you'd read a book like this full of adventure. I don't know. I'm not a young man, but maybe. So yeah, I really like 95% of it. And the 5% of it I don't like, just like with Chesterton, is the friggin' denouement! I don't have a problem with the denouement. I have a problem with what happens after or as or during the denouement, where it's basically we find out who killed the guy and why, and then the murderer kills himself. And I'm like, I have so many problems with that for so many reasons. A, suicide is bad. And I don't like when detectives let murderers commit suicide. I'm not sure this one necessarily did, but it kind of seems like he did. There's an Agatha Christie story where Poirot basically lets the murderer kill himself or herself. It makes me mad. As a like number one Sherlock Holmes fangirl, like Sherlock Holmes would never allow that to occur. He actually saves a guy from killing himself at some point. And that is A, like you shouldn't, like suicide in and of itself is bad, so you shouldn't let people kill themselves. But B, you should also force them to stand justice. And this is my other problem with the ending, is it feels like a cop-out on Milne's part, where we find out that the murderer had a really good reason for doing the murder. And rather than exploring, like, okay, does that justify it or not? How do you deal with that? What do we do? They're just like, and then he killed himself, so I don't have to figure it out. I don't know. It feels like a cop-out. It feels like a cop-out when this happens in mysteries. Like, the writer's just like, I don't know. What are you gonna do? It's like, no, you need to answer that question. You need to answer the question of, is it right to murder somebody or not? And maybe by having the murderer commit suicide, they're saying it's not right, but I feel like the character should have to make that decision. Like, what does the character do? Does the character let the person go or not? Yeah. I don't know. So it was a little dissatisfying. A little taint on there. But other than that, it was good. So if you like a very, very classic mystery, read The Red House Mystery. Later this week, I think I'm going to maybe do a special Rant Rave review about the Citizens Police Academy. It's not a book, and it's not a movie, it's not actual narratives, but I went to it, and it was fun, and I'm going to talk about police, because I like them a lot. So, yeah. Yeah, so I'll probably do that. Yay! Because I was going to have another book that I thought was about a crime, but it wasn't, so I'm not going to end up reviewing it. It was not that great either. So, this has been Get Caught Reading Month. See you next time. Bye-bye.